one of the things that I think is very helpful for people is to hear just how much it's changed someone. Now, I was a wonderful guy before I learned the principles, so it didn't change me that much. But Rabbi Harris, who's been a wonderful partner and colleague over, it's almost 8 years now, is someone who's, I think, a great describer of the principles, a great sharer of the principles, but more importantly, I think he's someone who, as you watch him, you see that he lives within the truth of the principles in a way that's incredibly connective for people, incredibly loving, and I'm really, really happy to be able to have him address you here at the 7th Annual Conference. So thank you very much. Rabbi Harris.
It's on? Hello? Oh, good morning. Good morning. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here. I have the task of sharing. I think this talk is called "How the Truth Changed Me." So, let's see. I had the opportunity to learn about the principles many, many years ago. I flew out to LaConner, Washington, and sat with a wonderful teacher for 4 days, and it was nice. But then I kind of moved on with my life. Didn't feel so changed. And then another 5 years later, I went out again, and I had a wonderful opportunity to listen and learn. And I saw something a little bit more, but I can't say that it was really, it didn't seem to make an imprint. And then years down the road, I was definitely experiencing a certain, what I would call like a stuck feeling, like a kind of a continual sense of disappointment. I was working. I was, thank God, in a wonderful home situation. I had a lot of blessings. And yet the kind of chronic experience that I had was like I was dissatisfied. I felt just a certain dissatisfaction with what I was doing, with myself, with the circumstances of my life, and I was just, feeling this insecure, feeling this somebody else is doing things better, I'm not doing well. It was just an unsatisfying experience. And the worst part was that I really felt that I could and should be doing better. And it was very frustrating. It was very frustrating, the sense that I'm not having an experience of life that I'd like, and I know better. I could and should be able to do better. And it got to the point where I decided I would take like a sabbatical. Like I took time off. I was working in outreach, and I took time off, and I was working, I maintained a part-time role, but I was going to devote myself to learning and to doing other things that I thought could rejuvenate me. And along the way, a friend who had learned and been moved by these ideas said to me, "Hey, I've been helping people, and it's been wonderful, and I'm looking to get others involved." So then I sat with him over the course of a couple days, and he started to talk to me about the nature of our experience, how our experience of life is coming from something called the inside out. How we tend to look at the world as if the world and the circumstances of our lives and our experience of the past and all these things are really, if you look at your life and you see where you're frustrated, why? If you ask somebody why, what's the problem? What's the difficulty? I had an answer. I had certain answers about there's something not right with me, there's something not right with my work, there's something not right with my wife. So I had my thoughts about that, and try as I might, I had worked pretty hard to change those things, and I wasn't I wasn't so successful in trying to change those things. So he was speaking to me about something, where the idea that your experience is really not coming from those things, it's coming from inside, from a place that's not outside in. And I was listening, and I could hear on some level that there was wisdom in what he was sharing. But he wasn't pointing, as Svi acknowledged, like he wasn't telling me what to do about that. So we kept talking about the nature of the inside out, and I was listening and saying, okay, but now what? What do we do? How do I get that? I can see the relevance of what you're describing, but I don't see how to get there. And I'm just living in this, pressured feeling that I don't know, whatever. I don't remember what his answer was to me, but suffice it to say he didn't have an answer, like he wasn't giving me an answer. And then over the course of the days that we met, there was a certain point where he noticed, I don't think I noticed it, but he noticed that my mood kind of lifted. And he said to me, how you doing right now? And I paused and I considered and I said, I actually feel kind of good. Life feels, it wasn't like I was jumping off the walls ecstatic, but it felt nice. And I noticed that it felt nice. And then he said to me, tell me, what did you do that allowed you to feel that nicer feeling? Something to that effect. And I paused and I considered that. And then I had, I think in Yiddish it's called an Einfall. It's like I saw something that I hadn't seen before, and it was really striking because I saw that in that moment, I saw that I had a feeling that was really different, but more importantly, that I hadn't done anything to have that experience, and nothing had really changed. Nothing about my past or my work. As far as I knew, nothing had changed about my wife in that moment. And I had a sense that I was free. I really had this realization that the pressure that I had felt and that I had carried, that I could and should be doing better. There was an experience of life that I could and should be able to have with the right understanding, with the right work, with the right lifestyle, that there was that sense that there was a feeling that I could and should be able to get. It kind of, in that moment, I realized, no, it doesn't go like that, right? I can't, that's not my job. That's not my lane. It's like all of a sudden I realized I've been in the wrong lane. I've been in the lane of trying to create and energize and generate a certain nice experience of life, and it's just not my lane. And there was a real feeling of sensing that there's something happening that is not, it was a very expansive moment. Now, what's funny is that shortly after that, as I'm reflecting on that expansive sense, that feeling of expansion that I had, that I'm in the presence of something truly powerful that's not me. I couldn't help but kind of notice and appreciate that I was feeling a nice feeling. The expanded awareness kind of came with a nice feeling, and I liked that feeling. And as I kind of became distracted by that nice feeling, I then realized, well, I don't know, wait, what's going to be in an hour from now? And then I kind of went back into this nervous feeling, and then something else fascinating happened. I noticed this thought kind of pop up. This thought just kind of bubbled up that said, you don't actually know what's going to be in an hour from now. And that's kind of the way it's going to be, And I, bless you. I didn't know what was going to be in an hour from now, but I was presented with an appreciation. I'm having a felt experience of life, and I'm feeling something, and I can tune into the nature of that feeling and really value that feeling, or really kind of relate to that, like prioritize what is that feeling. But I can also have a sense that that I'm having a felt experience that's being created in this moment. That there's something that's not me that's animating and informing and energizing that experience. That is, I'm interested in that. I'm interested in how that's happening. As much as I'm interested in having a certain type of feeling, I'm also interested in that beautiful, kind of breathtaking notion that there's a source to my experience right now, and that I'm not the manager of that. Like, I kind of became open to the idea that I'm having a divine experience. So that was very meaningful to me, to realize that that the challenges I was facing, the disappointments that I was facing, they weren't really so personal. You know, I wasn't the one generating them. And the whole idea of generating my feelings just started to look much less compelling. You know, and then I became interested. So where and how do I see more about how this truth is unfolding? How do I get better at seeing how this truth is unfolding? Now, what's funny is that over the years, as I've been learning about this, I've come to appreciate just how much I really like feeling a certain way. Even as I have a certain appreciation for the truth, I still have a real preference for certain feelings and a real preference to not have certain feelings. And there have been many times where my interest in learning about this truth has been with an unspoken or not visible agenda. How do I get this understanding so that I get better feelings? You know, which is something that I think everyone encounters. And I so appreciate what Zvi and what Keith have really kind of helped zero in on for me is the truth kind of notion of this pursuit. The idea that really the main thing I have in my life is to be able to see what's true about this moment. You know, I'm having a felt experience of life. I'm going through life with all kinds of feelings and experiences, but it's so meaningful to know that I can know what's true about this moment, and I can also know what cannot be true. And that's great, you know, like the whole idea of getting a feeling of certain kind, like getting a certain inspiration or getting a certain peace of mind or getting a certain forgiveness. I'm not so good at that, you know. I've tried very hard at that, not so good at it, and there's usually a certain amount of collateral damage that comes with the pursuit of that. You know, there's a lot of upset and annoyance toward me, toward others, in not getting that. But the job of, well, what's true about this moment? Well, I'm having an experience of the divine energy showing up in my heart. I'm having a certain experience of life that is, it's available to me because of the way everything is available. There's no independent power. There's only one source behind everything, and I'm experiencing and living inside of that ongoing renewal of life, including my capacity to have a feeling experience. It's inside that same power, and that to be able to say the truth, to be able to tell the truth about that, and then simultaneously to be able to acknowledge about this felt feeling experience what's not true, what cannot be true. It looks like it's my child's behavior that's causing this feeling, but I know something about that. And it doesn't mean that therefore I thereby dissolve the feeling in the moment. I don't know how to dissolve feelings in the moment. I don't know how to generate feelings in the moment. But what I'm so incredibly grateful for is the fact that like I said, I want to do my job. And my job, as far as I can tell, is to tell the truth about this moment and to acknowledge what cannot be true about this moment. That's my job. I can always do that job. I can always be successful at that job. I love the fact that I can always be successful at my job. And I don't have a job called get inspired, get calm, get forgiving. I don't have that job. That's God's job. That's his lane. He has his lane, I have my lane. My lane is a lot smaller than his lane, and I seem to be doing a lot better with staying in my lane. So I still have all kinds of feelings. I get impatient, I get disappointed, or I get insecure. I still have all kinds of feelings. But then at a certain point, I remember there's a certain safe quality to all those feelings. There's a welcome quality. All those feelings are just welcome in my life. There's none of those feelings are alarming in a sense of real alarm. They're unsettling, they're unpleasant. It's not that I don't feel pain, but I liken the analogy. Many folks who've heard me speak, Tzvi, just give me a cue when I'm meant to wrap up, okay? I like this analogy. Our sages tell us that our main children in this world are our good choices. Iker told us, Seim shel tzadikim masim tovim. Our main children are our good choices. And that means to say that bringing forth, good choices is akin to a labor and delivery. And there's a quality to labor and delivery by nature, which is you're not in control. You're just not, you don't decide when it starts, you don't decide how long it endures, you don't. And imagine the nature of a woman's experience of labor and delivery if she didn't know there's such a thing as labor and delivery. She's walking down the street and she gets this intense contraction and she doesn't even know that there's a pregnancy. That's, she's got the physical pain of the contraction, but she's got a lot more than that because she has no context. There's a total sense of alarm, a total sense of the unsafety of our felt experience. And I have to say that when it looked to me that my wife has different ways of thinking and feeling about the world than I do, and it looked at me to look to me at times that those differences were really a source of difficulty, and I would try to encourage her to change. And I have a bit of a shocking revelation to you. She didn't really like those attempts to change her. They didn't go so well. I would try to do them in different ways. I'd try to get other people to deliver the message to her. Maybe that'll work. I'd try to, whatever, all my attempts, and I was persistent, but it was difficult. It was difficult for her. It was difficult for me. We both suffered inside the experience that I that she was difficult for me. So the idea that I could feel the feeling of difficulty, it looked like it was coming from her, but I could still know the truth. It didn't, like I said, it didn't dissolve the feeling in the moment, but it left me in a place of, it's like new insights and new ideas and new thoughts are coming our way all the time. The Almighty is creating a life anew. He's creating life anew, moment to moment to moment. We're just living inside of this divine gift, this divine energy. And I get fixated on kind of where and how things should be and how things should look, and then I lose touch with this moment, with this moment and the truth of this moment. And I guess I just want to reiterate how much I love my job, how simple my job is, how often I can be successful. I can be successful all the time at my job. And I found that things have gotten easier. My capacity to be with the differences between my wife and I has softened. When she was no longer the kind of focal point for me to have a nice experience of life, then I just was less interested in trying to change her. And this is true for so many places. In my experience of davening, my experience of prayer, how often do I feel disappointed with my experience of where and how I show up to my prayers? Regularly, I'm not standing in a space of calm or concentration, but it just doesn't look like a problem because I get to do my job even as I'm going about my prayers. In learning, my learning has definitely shifted because, learning is, for me, learning is difficult. Sitting down to learn Gemara is hard. There's a lot of capacity to be, to feel, I don't know, I can't figure this out, I can't process this, I'm distracted. There's a potential to feel a sense of disappointment in so many ways. And as a person gains appreciation for what is disappointment, what is the feeling of disappointment? It's a feeling. It's the same way all feelings are simply divine energy showing up in my heart. All of those feelings are safe. They're all fine. They're all welcome. Because I don't need them to go anywhere. I can do what I need to do. And it's amazing to me how much those feelings have moved as I've become less and less concerned about them. But honestly, I don't even really, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for the ways that new feelings are present in my experience of my marriage, in my experience of my home, in so many places. But I just want to tell you the best thing about this, and this is really what Zvi and what I think Keith and the others here are going to be speaking about over the next, today and the next number of days, is to appreciate and value how they're kind of focusing our attention on the opportunity to see what's true, and the opportunity to acknowledge what cannot be true. To me, that is the mitzvah of Emunah, is to know what is true, to know there's a single power. Every time I can acknowledge what is true, I'm doing that. And the mitzvah of not to believe in other gods is to be able to acknowledge what cannot be true. It cannot be that this person is sourcing my feeling right now. That is such an incredible accomplishment. It's so precious to be able to tune into that success, that truth, that appreciation of truth, that appreciation of what cannot be true. So I don't know if I have anything else to say. Thank you so much for the opportunity. What's that? Oh, would anybody like to ask a question? Yes.
So I have a question. You mentioned, I understand the first part, which is, I have a job, and my job is to recognize what's true and what's not true in this moment. And then you said, my job is not to, like, I should be more patient, I should be more kind, etc. That's very refreshing and hopeful to hear. And then you said that, so what are our main children are good choices. And generally when people hear that, when I hear that, I would think, well, good choices mean I'm successful at being patient, at being kind, at presenting in a certain way, and so often I just can't.
So what are really the good choices? If our main offspring are good choices, but we can't necessarily create forgiveness in our hearts, create patience in our hearts. So, to me, what I've seen is that God has a way of opening my eyes. But I want to do my part in looking in the right direction, right? I don't know how, by looking at the truth, to reveal new worlds to myself. But I have definitely seen that, looking at the truth is great, and it goes along with, God opens the door and He opens my eyes to things, but I could be busy, figuring something out when He opens the door. So to me, the metaphor of the birth is kind of like, I'm going through contractions. Well, I don't know how to make totally analogous to the birth example. I just know that, there's an experience of not being in control. There's an experience of my life that I have in certain places of my life that I don't know how to get the feeling that I'd like to have. And I experience a feeling of contraction that is unpleasant, it's painful. But I trust that it's coming from a divine source and that it's not dangerous. It's somewhere, somehow, I know that there'll be something that will be revealed, but I don't need to decide when and where and how. That to me is so there are times where the good, just to stay with that truth, and then a baby gets born. I don't make babies, but I stay with the truth. God makes babies through me. Well, through my wife, but in the sense that we're all getting new insights. Babies show up in our lives, new insights, and we just want to stay loyal to the truth in the labor process.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciated and liked how you spoke about that whatever you wanted from your wife to change, and once you realized that it's not in her to change, it's once you made the change in yourself, your experiences changed. I'd like to hear more about...
I found that wives typically like that message.
Yeah, but I feel that something's missing. I feel that we would like to hear how probably your wife's beauty and chachma and talent and everything came out through the fact that you changed and you saw life from a different point. Do you understand my question?
Yeah, I think so. Well, let me see. Look, to the extent that you feel somebody's actively causing you harm, it's hard to see good in them, right? If somebody is like, it's just normal. It's human nature that if you feel somebody is actively harming you, to then simultaneously notice their virtue, it's hard. So when I started to realize, wait, my pain can't be coming from her.
Did that give her a chance to come out with all that she has to offer?
The truth is she was already doing beautiful things.
Did you
And
see it?
She was already possessive of all kinds of
But
virtue.
I still want to hear if you saw it.
I saw more. Yeah, sure. When I felt like, she stopped putting that 1,000-ton weight on my toe, I was definitely appreciative of a whole bunch of additional qualities.
So I was sure about that. I just wanted to hear it.
Okay. Should we pause here? Okay.